Oh, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. You got it? You got it? All right, I got it. I got it. There. There we go. What's going on, everybody? The man who trims his fruit trees with his bare hand. I mean, not using power tools to do it. I usually use pruners, and I'm not like chopping my apple trees. I won't say I've never chopped an apple tree, but not like through it. That'd be really challenging. Welcome everybody to episode 5, season 2 of Whistlekick Live. I am Jeremy Lesniak. I'm your host, joined sort of through the ethernets, the interwebs. Uh, Gabe Siu, who does an amazing job behind the scenes and controls the boards via the internet across 3 time zones. That's how we do this. He does a great job, and I really appreciate him and all the fun stuff that's going to happen today. I don't even know. I don't even know. I don't when we put these together. He's like, "Do you want?" I'm like, "I don't know. Whatever. You surprise me because it's more fun that way. You have fun being surprised. Why shouldn't I be surprised with what's going on?" Although sometimes with trivia we disagree. And there was a correction. I don't know if you noticed it. There was a correction from last time. I'm not even going to tell you what it was. If you missed it last time, you'll just have to wait. You'll have to wonder what's going on. So we've got a good show for you. We got some guests coming up. We've got a big announcement at the end. And you may notice the lighting. Can you see the lighting? Do you notice that there is no glare off my head in the same way that there has been? Because there are one, two, three big lights to go with the microphones and the cameras and the arms and the monitors on. I have recorded a number of things in a number of studios over the years. The monstrosity that is becoming my office is easily the most complex. I have a pile of wires right here that I'm not going to show you because it's embarrassing. And there's just wires everywhere. And I could do something to try to clean them up, but why? Why would I do that? Because I'm just going to disconnect these things. How do I get back to I'm trying to close this. I don't know. Anyway, I can't see. I'm trying to get back to people's comments, but I'm not getting them, so I don't know. I don't know, and that makes me sad. All right. Oh, there it is. I can do it now. Okay. Wow, looks good and sounds good. People are talking. Andrew's giving me a hard time for the backdrop that has not been ironed, because why would I do that? That seems silly to me. Why is this not? There we go. All right, I need to be able to see Gabe. So, that's the end of my monologue. Every evening show has to have a monologue. That's my monologue. I spend half of it just kind of monologuing. Stacy says Velcro is your friend, not with all these wires. There's so many wires. It's a multitude of wires. And if you were not in the chat before the show, you missed out on the discussion of the theme song and why we should have a theme song and what it should be. And I submitted my off the cuff response. Stacy had a better one. So, yeah, the fun things that happen during the live show. Uh, let's uh, let's move on to our first topic, which is a throwback to some of the things that we did this time last year, which, was a long time ago, a year ago. We were all still optimistic and positive and weren't infected with illness. The myth of having to register your hands as deadly weapons started as a publicity stunt by the boxer Joe Louis. Not Joe Louis. Somebody remind me. I've got something to mention, to hint about regarding the martial arts Joe Louis. He would bring the police to his pre-fight press conferences in order to intimidate his opponents by having the police register his hands as deadly weapons. And that man, Joe Louis, fought professionally from 1934 to 1951. That's a long career. 17 years as a pro fighter? Whew. There's probably some traumatic brain injuries going on there. I'm sure. That's rough. How much can a person really learn from online instruction? This was a conversation that we had a year ago. And you know what? I'm sure I was really down on it. I'm sure I was diplomatic, but down on it. My opinion has grown considerably because people found new and creative ways. And everybody's favorite game. Oh, here comes the yawning from talking too much. But I've got a whole bunch of water. If you were attacked right now, wherever you are, what's the closest thing you can grab to defend yourself? Now, if I remember correctly, Gabe, when we did this, this was back before when I wasn't doing the show in the office. I was doing it out in front of the wood stove. Whole different dynamic. I always had a sweaty back. I mean, I have a sweaty back now because of this monstrosity that I'm wearing, which I want everybody to acknowledge this. This was available at whistlekick.com for a year, and no one bought one. It was very sad. I have the only one of these in existence. Look at this. Look at this thing. It's the warmest thing you could ever have. It's a blanket that you wear. It's like a snuggie. It's kind of like a snuggie, but your arms work the right way. You don't have to put it on backwards. So if you were attacked right now, what's the closest thing you can grab to defend yourself? Now, I have far more options available to me being that I am in the office. I have a retired knife that I use as a letter opener. This was my first favorite kitchen knife. There's somebody in the Zoom. What time are we doing this? We're not doing this yet, right? No? Okay. I have this incredibly heavy water bottle that even has a handle. Like, I think I could probably do some... Can you hear that? Oh, here's the mic. I could do some damage to that thing. What else do I have? I mean, I don't know what else I would need. And I've got this whistlekick Grand Championship medal from 2016 that I could... I mean, if I could put a rope on it, I could really... I could do some damage with that. Do some damage with that for sure. In the chat, Andrew says, last year, buy the stove. Your answer was the heavy pot on the stove. That would have worked, and that is a bizarrely good memory, my friend. Stacy says, pens and scissors for my desk cup. Dennis says, AirPods. Matt says, fork and a baby. I really hope those are two separate implements, and it's not like baby on a fork that you would be using. Matt and I are... Matt's other half, Jenny, says, Matt and I are eating. Oh, I lost it. We have forks and knives. He would grab the fork. I would grab the baby. All right. Well, it works. It all works. Andrew doesn't think it works. Andrew thinks that Dennis is in trouble with AirPods. I don't know. I know Dennis well. I bet he could do some damage with some AirPods. So it was not too long, just about a year ago, a little over a year ago, that I released my first real book. The Martial Artist Handbook came out December of 2019. We've sold a bunch of copies. And fun enough, there are copies of this that make it into bookstores. Amazon's got some program, and I just see it on the sales reports that it's probably been like close to a dozen copies have been sent out to bookstores. I don't know if anybody bought them. If you ever see this in a store, please take a picture and send it to me because that would be super duper cool. And if you want autographed copies, you can buy autographed copies at whistlekick.com. I have a handful on hand at any time. Yeah. So speaking of books, I wrote another one. Because why not? Because I don't have enough to do. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to write a novel. I'll have it done in a month. That was a little aggressive. It took me 10 weeks, not 10 days. I wrote this novel. It's called Faith. It has nothing to do with religion. But it's the first book in a series called The Katana Chronicles. Yes, that will become relevant as we get further along. How soon will I write book 2? Depends on how well it sells. If we sell a bajillion copies, I'll write the follow-up tomorrow. If we sell fewer copies, I will write it less soon. So let's welcome somebody that we've met on Martial Arts Radio, if you listen to Martial Arts Radio, but has how do I want to say it? Has never been on this show, but has kind of been on this show indirectly for a long time. So let's welcome Gabe's other half, Jenny Seo. I gotta take this hood down. It's driving me nuts. Here, I'm gonna move this over here. I can hear you. I can hear you. There you are. Hey, how are you? What's happening? Yeah, I'm great. I'm great. I'm gonna enlarge this for the benefit of people watching. There we go. Yeah, yeah. What's happening? Don't you have a class going on right now? The you and Gabe are the most versatile martial arts family in school. Like there's two of you, and right now you're running a show on the show and running a class. Like talk about dynamic. That is impressive. Mm, yeah, nice, nice. Well, you are here, if I understand correctly, because of the whistlekick related project that you're working on, and Gabe sent me an email and said you're going to come on to talk about that.
Yes,
That's what you're here for, right?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, I
it's
mean, it's up to
whatever
you.
you want me to talk about. But yeah, that's what I've been trying to burn the midnight oil on right now. So
Oh,
yeah.
okay. All right. Um, do you need something with any desk, or did I bump the mouse? You're good. Okay, we're good. All right. Um,
Yeah,
so it was like 2 years ago that we finished the first draft of the Master Hopkick origin story, right?
I do not know.
Maybe it was 18 months. And then I said, "Hey, you want to work on some Master Hopkick stuff?" And you said, "Yeah, but I want to redo that book. I have
Yeah,
some I have some issues with that book. Some continuity, historical accuracy, and other very nitpicky, but I say that in the best possible way,
I was gonna
issues."
say, yeah, yeah, I'm all about authenticity
Mm,
in the places where it can be. No, just when I read it, it's good and it's got, like I say, it's got really good bones. It's got really good potential. But as I read it, I went, man, there's a few things that there are people who know way more than I do about some of these historical things and characters, and I just wouldn't want Whistlekick to put out this and then have somebody else come in and go, you don't know what you're talking about,
which,
you know?
which I
And
appreciate.
so, yeah, and so yeah, I was. Let's see, it was in August that I started writing, I think.
Okay.
So yeah, we
What
talked a little
what's
bit,
that
and
what's that process been like? Revising that book story, I guess
it's
the
been
book
kind
is
of
story.
fascinating. It's been a process of growth for me. I've learned a ton. Um, I would say it's been a process of growth for me. Um, Allowing myself to change things because I didn't start it and I didn't write it. And I remember at first going, oh man, so I want to correct some things, I want to change some things, but how much am I actually able to do? How much is this mine? How much is this yours? And how much is this the original author? Like, what can I do and what can't I do? And so it was a bit of a growth process, I feel like. Starting out, I was very hesitant, very nervous about what I changed and how I changed it. And over time, I feel like it's become my own, and I've gotten a better feel for where it needs to go and how to keep that origin story in there,
Yeah.
and just expound on it and make it a little, hopefully, better. But
I
yeah,
think this is why so many people when they write something fictional, they go to a fictional place
yeah,
because then you're not bound by reality, and that was something that I um, intentionally avoided in most cases. If you this thing that we just talked about,
yes,
um,
yes. Congratulations, by
thank
the
you,
way.
thank you.
That's fantastic.
Um, it I don't say where it is, just
Right.
beyond it's like it's New England, and because the moment I say anything specific, it gives people something to push back on. Like they need to be able to accept the story. And so you're
Yep.
going the exact opposite direction and saying, okay, we just need to get rid of all the things that people could push back on by making it completely historically accurate and yet accommodating for a fictional character.
Right. And that's the balance that's really hard to strike sometimes. And that's why I feel like I haven't been able to just bust it out. I wish very much I had been able to just get it all written in a couple of months. But as I looked deeper, trying to figure out, okay, so we've got this historical fact, but we don't want to stick necessarily to that. We
Right.
don't want it to have to be exactly that historical moment, right? We want people to be able to relate to it,
Sure.
but we're set in history. So, like for example, one of the places that our character goes is Australia. Um, Australia is a big country,
Right.
and Australia itself has a ton of diversity.
Yes.
I didn't want to pick a town and say, well, now I have to figure out how to live there and have all of the exact details of everyone who ever lived in that town and how that would look.
Hmm.
But we can pick Australia and say, all right, well, there's some specifics we have to keep in mind. So trying to stay within that context of reality, but not so box ourselves in that it only applies, you know, in
Sure.
one dimension, I guess. So yeah.
Sure. Sure. Um, Can you give us an example of something in the story that maybe has changed? Because we have sold some copies, right? Some people have read the first version of the story, and it is available if you want to pick it up. I think it's just a Kindle version. It's not long enough for a paperback version. But what's an example of something that's changed in the version of the story that you're working on?
So one thing that's changed is so historically, our character John, he wouldn't have been able to come to the States straight away on a scholarship to study. And the original story has him leaving his home in the Solomon Islands to come straight to New York and study high school and college there in New York, and then kind of the story progresses from there. And that was just not possible at the time period that it's set in. It just wasn't something that he wouldn't have been able to get a visa there.
Yeah.
And so we took him to Australia. And then we take him after Australia, we bring him to the States. A few more years gone by, borders had opened up, things like that. Now, those aren't things we're actually going to talk about in the book. But if there's somebody who's reading and they go, I'm from whatever part of the world and that wouldn't have happened.
Right.
Now we have,
Right.
now we've just shifted
Awesome.
that a little bit.
Awesome. We've got to wind up this chat,
Yeah.
uh, but I'm trying to think of what people would want to know. I guess they're. Oh, it's telling me I've frozen.
Yes.
I've frozen. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you. You
Weird.
froze a little while ago,
Huh. I
and I
wonder
didn't
why.
know if that was just me or that was.
No, no. Apparently it's everybody. Huh. I don't know.
Oh,
Well,
sorry, I should have said something.
nah. It's nothing I can do about it. Uh, not
You can
not.
blame me. There you go. No.
No, we're
Um,
we're gonna blame Nathan because he's in the waiting room.
oh,
So
there you
we're
go.
gonna we're gonna blame him. Uh,
No.
but do you have an idea when this might be ready? I don't
Oh
want, I'm
man.
not going to hold you to it, but are you half?
Yeah.
How about this? Are you halfway? Are you
Yeah.
you're halfway?
Yeah. We're
Okay,
we're further than halfway for sure.
cool.
And it's mostly filling out the story,
Okay,
trying to keep the pace steady throughout the whole thing. That's one of the things I'm trying really hard to keep the
nice.
pace steady. So yeah, I mean, man, I'm homeschooling my three kiddos. We're teaching karate. We're doing all the things, right? So
Busy. I get it.
hopefully within the next month or two, I'll
Nice,
have the whole thing done.
nice.
So
I'm pumped. I'm pumped to see it. So
yeah, I am as
thanks for
well.
coming on, everybody. Stay tuned,
Yeah,
and yeah, we'll do it.
yeah.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. I'm gonna put you back in the waiting room and see if we can't fix my video on this.
All right, sounds good. Take care.
All right. Thanks. You too. All right, here, I'm switching back to this and see if I can fix this. There we go. It's fixed already. That's how good I am. I just had to turn it off and on again because I mean, is that not the solution to most technology issues? You turn it off and you turn it on again. Um, at least you froze in a decent pose. He was trying to highlight Jenny. Yeah, Laura, he's not eating a microphone. That's a reference to Julius's selection of last month's still for use as the episode graphic, where the um, let's just say it wasn't the best photo of me ever. I've seen better. I've seen better. Nathan, if you can hear us, we're gonna we're gonna go for a few minutes, then we're gonna bring you on. Matt saying, "Is it plugged in?" Yes, that's the other half of IT. Is it plugged in? And have you tried turning it off and on again? In fact, there's a wonderful show. I'm not a big fan of British comedy typically, but there's a great show. It's available on Netflix called The IT Crowd, and that is a recurring joke throughout. So we've got some topics from Facebook. Let's do a couple minutes of these. What do we got? If your instructor had a pull string, what would the phrases be? Ooh, um, depends on the instructor, but I'm thinking of things like, "Come on, you can get those stances lower," or "All right, just 10 more," or "We'll move on when you get it right." Let's see. I've got a feeling some of you all had some responses for this. Richard said, "Let's see if that's true right before we clap and then practice techniques." Andrew says, "Mine would be okay once more." I always tell my students that whenever I say once more, I'm always lying. Jared says, "No, too much muscle." Of course, we should know that Jared is an Aikido practitioner in part. Marcia says, "Think about it in a different way." Daniel says, "Just relax." Ed says, "One, bend your knee. Two, switch sides. Three, one more time." And Kara says, "Right foot." Yes. What top three qualities would you use to describe the quote unquote ideal martial artist? I would say patient, I would say dedicated, and I would say humble. Those would be my three. Some top answers from the Martial Arts Fun and Friends group, which you should all check out. Always learning, always teaching, always humble, driven, open minded, compassionate, integrity, perseverance, humility, humble, confident, honest, honorable, humble, adaptive. So there's humble coming up a few times. Helper, healer, hungry, student, teacher, leader, and possibly the best one, and I want to know who put this in: sleeveless gi, mirror tape staff, techno music blasting from Walkman. That's pretty good. That's pretty good stuff. I like that. What's your biggest martial arts regret? That's a tough one. There's a part of me that wants to say that there was kind of a dark time when I was on my own for 2 years and not formally training, and saying that I should have broken out of that sooner. But I think I needed that, and I think especially now where I'm at, I needed that perspective because there are things to that come up related to that. So my biggest martial arts regret, um, I don't know. I'm not big on regrets. That's why I'm struggling here. So let's see what other people said. Many people said not starting earlier, and I would absolutely have said that if I hadn't started at 4. One person said none, a few said quitting or taking a break. Many said they fooled around too much or didn't take their training seriously. I guess I could put myself in that camp. As a kid, I definitely fooled around. I had my moments. I was a kid. I was around other kids. It's going to happen. What's the most random thing you've intentionally broken or offered to break? Oh, man. Doors, wood, printers. There was a pile of broken printers that didn't quite fit in the boxes they needed to go in, and there were a lot of axe kicks taking off paper trays. It's kind of like Office Space, but without the Ghetto Boys music in the background. Matt says, car. At a community day, police or a fire department had a junker car and people could donate for a few swings with a sledgehammer. Three of us got together from the school to try and kick off a door and a bumper. Gabe, I'm assuming this is you. A few years ago, I witnessed a single car rollover in which the driver was trapped. I ended up kicking in a window, which allowed him to crawl out. Whoa! That's awesome. That's really cool. Jenny's in the chat. Her biggest regret, allowing anxiety to get in the way of my training. I was a bad student, a bad role model when anxiety was in control. I could see that. All right. Oh, all right. We're going to bring on. All right. Let's bring on Nathan Porter. He's been a friend and I don't know if I want to say a fan, but a supporter. And he and I already talked this morning. What are you doing? What are you doing? You gonna bring him in? What's happening? We have a very fluid style here, Gabe and I. There's no rules. There's no rules.
Hey, Jeremy.
Hey, what's going on, man? How are you?
What's happening? How you doing?
I'm well, and yourself?
Yeah, doing all right. Just wrapped up classes, so
Nice.
ready to rock.
Nice. What is going on with this bow and arrow over your head?
Oh, I never saw that before. No, I that was, this was
You're
actually
gonna tell me like, oh, this is from like 14th century Nottingham. It belonged to Robin Hood. I keep it in my dojo.
Yeah, no, this was a gift from Henry way back.
Oh, really?
And
oh, cool.
yeah, it was some competition event, and yeah, so gave that to me, and yeah, pretty cool.
Nice.
I used to have another one very similar, but yeah, have you ever seen those Mongolian bows? Now those are pretty wild. If you can get your hands on one of those.
No, are those the super big ones? Like an English longbow?
The other ones when you see the horns kind of coming off, so you can really pretty wild stuff.
Nice. Yeah, pretty much anything Mongolian is crazy. Like
Yeah.
Mongolian metal. Are you familiar with Mongolian metal music of today?
Oh yeah.
Those guys are nuts. They do like the throat singing, but with like power chords. It's intense.
All that death metal thing going on.
Yeah.
Oh, wild
Yeah,
stuff.
it's great. It's great. So how were classes? Classes go well?
Classes went well. We just experienced a little snowstorm, little rising storm, but but it was good. A lot of people made it out, and yeah, I just wrapped up the adults. We only had about 6, but they're all dedicated and glad they didn't slip on the ice, and yeah, rocking and rolling.
Good. How much snow did you get?
What did we get? We probably got about 15, 18.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
15 to 18 inches. There are people watching this right now who have never seen that much snow.
Wow. Okay.
Or at least listening. I don't know.
Must be nice.
We got some people. You've got more than we have. I saw somebody put up a graphic this morning. You guys in Massachusetts have received way more snow this year than we have here in Vermont, which is just silly. It's silly. You don't want it, give it to us. We need it for the ski mountains that no one's allowed to come to. But you are here today to talk about helping students find their passion in the martial arts.
Yeah.
Because you are someone who continues to I don't know if reinventing yourself is fair to say, but you utilize and exist in the martial arts sphere in a few different ways, and you just seem to be always fired up about all of those things all the time.
Yeah, so instructor burnout is such a big thing, and it kills the class, and that's one of the big things you can go into, is it a hobby or a job, hobby or career kind of thing, and when you are making that switch, of course, instructors, they go through this all in, and it wears on them, and there's a lot riding on it when you're first getting involved, and and you have to do things a certain way, and because of that it takes the passion out.
Right.
So to get that passion back instilled into your training and everything else, I mean, because you have to be passionate in what you do.
Yeah.
I mean, I teach a lot more youth kids. I mean, I mentioned I had 6 kids, but I taught sorry, 6 adults, but I taught 50 something kids today,
Oh
and
wow.
that's with limited limited spacing.
Yeah.
And so, but if you're not passionate about what you do and you're around kids, it's going to pick right up, and they're just going to be, they're gone, and that's, and
Or they
what
chew
you
you
really
up.
need to do. Yeah, yeah, and you can fake it till you make it, and you grow into that. But what really helps me, and this is probably how I keep reinventing, my own training methods, is exactly that. I In my style, so everyone has this style, this system that they're learning, but you yourself need a personal method,
Mm,
right, for said style. And a lot of times that's going to put something into your art that's yours, right? And that's just for you. And in martial arts, we know it's all about giving back, and we're constantly teaching and teaching and teaching.
mm.
But when you take a moment to self-reflect on a method for yourself based on your style, oh wow, that kind of gives another spark, and that can lead to other thoughts.
Give me,
and
give me,
and
give me some examples of that method.
all right, well, you get that when you get that kind of palm to forehead moment of, oh, of course, that's what they meant. Everybody describes everything slightly different. So if you're, let's say, a taekwondo practitioner, right, and you're comfortable in Korean systems, right, and you go, okay, you can kind of branch out a little bit, but then let's say you pick up, let's say, a Muay Thai, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm a martial artist, I can relate to this,
Hmm.
but the way that they describe their kicking methods is very different, and for different reasons. I mean, in the sport area of the arts, yeah, there's different rules associated, but all of a sudden you are taking the same kick, and it is now put into a different way for you to learn it,
Sure.
and that gives you a different method for implementing your technique. So now if you're teaching, say, a roundhouse kick. All right, I'm going to use my instep. I'm going to use my ball. I'm going to use my shin. I'm going to use my knee with the whole leg behind it. I'm going to utilize my hip for the motion.
Yeah.
You have all these different ways of now teaching said roundhouse kick. So how much more interesting did that roundhouse kick become? And all of a sudden that sparks into everything else. But you have to give that passion forward too.
Okay.
If kids always see, or even adults, and they see that, oh wow, if they see that, okay, it's a roundhouse kick, and you're not putting that forward, or if you're teaching little ones, hey, this is cool, because they're gonna, oh, this is a cool, they just kind of go along with it. Now the other thing too is this. Let's say you're teaching kids, right, and you're looking for passion. I'm feeling good because I'm looking up all these different arts, and now I'm going to put it in, and I'm going to do a hook punch out of Filipino systems, old dirty boxing sets, instead of the classic hook. That's just going to be my method. That's what I'm going to be working on, right? And but there's a lesson there, right? And there's something that I can put into my system and my style. It is what it is. But if I'm teaching kiddos, stories will help with the passion. If, let's say, my style is discipline, right, and I can't put that passion out there, it just doesn't go with my teaching method of what I'm doing.
Hmm.
It's not disciplined if it shows, there's just a different teaching style, right? I don't want to put that forward in my method of whatever I'm doing.
Makes
So
sense.
what you do is but you have to have you have to be passionate about what you do. So you transfer the passion, right? So you do it in the form of a story that has some passion to it. So that takes it off of the discipline aspect of the instructor and rolls it into something to grow the passion of the student. Or, hierarchy is an interesting thing in the arts. You can always talk about your instructor that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
If I'm no longer kicking, and I've had instruction from Bill Superfoot Wallace, right? I think everybody has stories about Superfoot, and
Yeah.
how passionate is he about his striking,
He's
and is it
he loves what he does still.
So instantly, just by sharing that, wow, that's going to roll into everybody
Yeah.
else, and it takes it off of me, so I can still be me and instill something else in the other students.
Yeah.
So that really helps out too. Um,
Passion's a fire. It's contagious. And I've noticed there are certain schools that I've attended, and everybody's just kind of they're all, the instructors going through the motions, the students going through the motions, and sometimes it just takes a little bit of a spark.
mm,
And because it's contagious, now
yeah,
everybody's elevated. Nobody's going to let it go. They're all
yeah,
fired up. They're doing the same stuff, but they're all showing up finally. They're there, they're ready. So
yeah, yeah,
it's
and
important.
it's all about that instructor too,
It
because
is.
some of them will be like, well, you know, how can this is a serious self-defense situation.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be smiling. You got to take this serious. There's that whole side of things too in martial arts and fighting. I mean, all right, if you're training for, a fight, or all right, you're doing some serious aggression tactics,
Right.
and you're putting in these, the tone has to shift. So how can we be laughy and smiley and happy when we're trying to get our head into something as close to self-defense as we can? And that's a really tricky approach.
Passion
And
doesn't
that
have to be fun.
mm, yeah.
I think if you're really passionate about something, there's going
Mm,
to be an enjoyment of it. But it doesn't necessarily
right.
mean it has to be fun, smiley, giggly,
Mm,
cracking jokes, right? Like
yeah.
you and I, we could spar, and we could have a
Hmm.
heck of a lot of fun, and it could be playful and joking, and closer to a game of tag. But we could also go much harder, even removing contact from the equation. We could make it
Mm,
a much more intense sparring match, and still really enjoy it. But we're far more, I shouldn't say more, but we're engaged differently.
yeah. Yeah. Well, that's it. The passion can go into the focus,
Yeah.
and that's the big thing. And that kind of transition has to be acknowledged,
It does.
and then you can kind of like, hey, all right, we're going to do this. We can get fired up for it. And all right, or that kind of that I mean, you watch a coach's speech from a football movie or a
Yep.
basketball movie, and you get all
Great.
fired up. You watch
Totally. Great
some
example.
some epic movie, and here we go. There's the passion for the focus of the activity.
Awesome.
And
Yeah,
that's what it's.
it's a good place for us to end. We got to move on to other segments.
Oh,
I
Jeremy.
know you and I could talk about this for an hour or two at least. I have
Oh,
no doubt. But I appreciate you coming on, and
Jeremy, it's always great to see you,
you
man.
too, man.
And
We'll talk again soon, bud.
definitely looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thank
Take
you.
care, everyone,
All
and
right.
have a good one. Cheers.
Be well. Always good to talk to Nathan. Such a good guy. What's going on in here? I have two feet. There's insanity going on in the chat. I'm not even going to read back. I can already tell it's just nuts. All right, so this might be my favorite segment, or at least one of story time with Matt. So first off, this photo is amazing. So there's Matt, there's Jenny. That's the other Jenny. We have two Jennies at Whistlekick, and this is other Jenny and Matt versus Jenny and Gabe. They both end the spelling of their name with an I, which I object to because that's the non-traditional spelling, and the least they could do is have different spellings of their name, but they didn't. So um, that's all sarcastic because I think the world of both of them. But we've got 5 stories today, so let's move on. I'm going to read these to you. These are great. So this came in from Gabe. In our school, we have a family with 5 girls who all start at the same time. Occasionally, I mix up their names, and one day joked that I would just call them number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So one day they came to class wearing name tags with number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on them. I never lived that down. It's a great story. Also from Gabe. At a tournament, I broke my hand in a sparring match, but I won my division. The only other guy in my grand champion division was a good friend of mine who had re injured his knee, so we both decided to bow out rather than risk further injury. When we explained our situation to the registration table, one of the judges overheard us and took matters into his own hands and had us play rock, paper, scissors for it. He grabbed two other judges and we proceeded with the match. I ended up winning, and now I have a grand champion trophy for winning rock, paper, scissors. Nice. This one's from Andrew. At 16 years old, I was a green belt, and at my first tournament, I ended up placing second in my kata division, which I was totally psyched about. I was so happy to get a trophy. However, I spent the entire rest of the tournament trying to track down any girl who also placed second in any division. Why? I didn't want my trophy to have a girl on the top. It's dumb, but I did find someone. I have at least one trophy at home that I ended up with a girl trophy. It's okay. It's okay, Andrew. You can have a girl trophy. Girls have boy trophies at most tournaments, to be honest. Is this a picture? Yeah, this would be it. That's. Are we sure that's a girl? Oh no, that would be the one you swapped for. So that is the male trophy topper. Submitted by Garrett. I was at a tournament about 12 years ago where I had the privilege of judging adult creative weapons forms. I despised this and didn't think anyone hated this more than me. Then I met this girl that did, and she was cracking the same jokes I was. There was a guy that did maracas in a forum. Seriously, took maracas and did a traditional form while shaking these things. Maybe he lost a bet or something. Anyway, she busted up laughing halfway through, as did I, and that was it. Best friends ever since. I married her about 8 years later. We're still together and laugh about it. You know, what? Because I read through these just a couple days ago just to make sure they didn't need any adjustment for length or whatever. And at the beginning of this one, I was a little sad, like, oh, like why is somebody doing a maracas for him? But then, the fact that it brought two people together and they got married, like, that's pretty adorable. Can't get mad at that. And our last one, this one's from Matt. At a tournament many years ago, I was a second dan and tied for first place in weapons with a fourth dan. Oh, excuse me. We both performed again and they still couldn't decide a winner. They decided to give it to the fourth dan because he was senior in rank. That's crap. When they said it loud enough that we heard it, he, the fourth dan, turned and told the judges that they were wrong and that wasn't a reason someone should win. Good. So he gave me first place. Yes, every one of those judges needs to be slapped. That's, ugh. I know that's not supposed to be the takeaway from that story, but yeah. Tennis is in the chat saying he does an amazing AirPods kata. I bet you do, my friend. What we got now? What's next? Random thoughts and stories from my life as they relate to the martial arts. Okay. This could go anywhere. So this happened a few days ago. Are these all from you, Gabe? Okay, these are from Gabe. I was talking to a friend about different styles of karate and mentioned Kyokushin karate. He said, "Kill your shin? What's that?" A better mistake could not have been made. It's absolutely true. That's that's brilliant. For my day job, I work for a freight company. One day while moving trailers around using what we call a yard goat, I saw this label. Safety instructions, emergency exit, kick out windshield. I'm not saying I'm wishing for an emergency, but if there ever is one, I'm just saying my training perfectly suits me for the situation. That's all. A yard goat. That looks like a fun. How fast do those things go? Probably not fast enough to go on the road. 40? 40. Okay. I also punch random things everywhere I go. Me for no reason. Yes, this is why about half of my training right now is punching surfaces in my house. The refrigerator, the walls, the corners, the random saloon. Oh, I need more oxygen. The random saloon doors into my laundry room. Those are great because you don't want to hit them too hard, but they swing. Perfect. Perfect for punching. We recently got a new batch of students, a new batch of new students, and this is the face I often make watching them be better than me. It's a meme of a cat. The face you make when a white belt does a technique better than you on their first day. It's a very judgmental cat. All cats are judgmental, but especially this one. I like it. All right, rapid fire trivia. Hold on, I gotta get ready. This is next time. I'm not bringing like a jug of water. This just feels ridiculous. Also, you can hear how much water I've drank because that thing was almost full at the beginning. All right, I have 20 questions. Answer as quickly as I can. Read each question out loud before giving my answer. All right, that means I have to read fast. Did the person I'm playing against also have to read the questions or just answer them? They did. Okay. All right. I'm ready. Let's do it. Who's my favorite musician? Tupac. That's the wrong direction. Oh, you didn't start the thing. You didn't start the timer. You gotta start the timer? Is that what's happening? Are you typing to me? Things are happening. Andrew got 14 right in a minute 40 seconds. Okay. That's what I have to beat. I'm ready. Who's my favorite musician? Tupac. What does karate mean? Empty hand. Way of the empty hand. What do you call a free form fight that can have multiple opponents? Sparring. Where did Eskrima and Kali originate? Philippines. Name one of the founders of Kembo. Pass. What are basics called in Japanese? Kihon. What does Shodan mean? First degree black belt. What nickname is Bill Wallace known by? Superfoot. Where was the American Taekwondo Association founded? I'm going to say Washington, D.C. What does Taekwondo mean? Foot fist way. How many underbelt colors does BJJ have? White, blue, purple, brown. That's 4. Name a style with no strikes. Yellow bamboo. What is osotogari? Is that hip throw in judo? What is the Japanese art of weapons? Kabuto. What does judo mean? Ooh. Way of throwing people. What are Japanese training mats called? Tatami? What do you call a person on whom you demonstrate a technique? Uki in Japanese. Who is the founder of Aikido? Morihei Ueshiba, also called O-sensei. What do you call a knife hand strike in karate? A shuto. What does Shotokan mean? Oof, I don't know. How to do? So in a minute 42, all right. So I got number 1. My favorite musician is Tupac. I'm glad I got that one right. Karate means empty hand. Yeah, I got that. What do you call freeform? Oh, randori? Yeah. That's how is that different from sparring though? Sparring can have multiple people. I'm giving myself that one. 3. Eskrima and Kali, the Philippines. Yeah. 4. Oh, okay, founders of Kembo. I don't know any of these names. Adriano Emperado, Yil Chu, Joe Hulk, Frank Ordonez, or I think Ordonez is how you say that. I've heard that name. And Clarence Chang. Okay, so apparently I need to learn more about Kembo. Basics in Japanese Kihon. So that's 5. Shodan. First step. I'm taking it. 6. Bill Wallace's Superfoot. 7. Omaha, Nebraska for the ATA. No. Taekwondo. Way of the hand and foot. I'll let you decide. BJJ has 4 colors. Yep. So what's that? 8. Style with no strikes. Judo or Jiu-Jitsu? I also believe yellow bamboo. You didn't say it had to be a good, legitimate, or traditional system. I'm taking it. 9. A Sotogari, basic hip or leg throw in judo. 10. Kabuto is Japanese art of weapons. 11. Judo means, oh, gentle way. Okay. Japanese mats. Tatami. 12. You call a person whom you demonstrate a technique. Uki. 13. Founder of Aikido. Morihei Ueshiba. 14. What do you call a knife hand strike? Shudo. 15. What does Shotokan mean? School of Waving Pines. All right. So in 2 more seconds, I got 1 more than Andrew. So I'm going to take it. I won. It's my show. I mean, it's our show, but I'm going to say I won because I'm on the air. And now for the first time ever. Is this your first time ever, ever? Gabe's going to be on the show. Is this your first time ever, ever? No, you've been on the show. You've been on Martial Arts Radio. Okay, once. First, this is Gabe's first time being on this show. So we're gonna we're gonna put him on. He's getting there. He's going to a completely separate computer. I'm gonna have to run the board now because he's not here. I'm doing his job too. I love it. Oh, you're already there in the waiting room. I've missed that part. He's joining. He's joining. He's joining. There he is. Hey, there you are.
Hi.
Hi. What's going on, man?
Oh, not too much. It's kind of weird to be on this side of
It is, isn't it?
the camera, I guess.
Yeah.
And you'll notice the camera you usually look at me in is I got a different background. I'm
Yes.
literally just on the other side of the table.
Oh, what a
Where I usually
right.
sit.
It's we could put Jenny in your normal chair, and then I could be all kinds of messed up about it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you're here for an announcement.
I am.
So let's have it.
Well, what's happening is I got to preface it by saying we love you, Jeremy. We love all the listeners and supporters of the show.
Yep, we do.
But the big announcement is that next month's episode, which is season 2, episode 6, will be our 18th episode. Will
Yep.
be our last one.
Yep. We're calling it.
We are. Yeah, it's been a great show. We've had a great run. We've had a great time.
It's been
Nothing
fun.
wrong.
We've worked out almost all the kinks. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I forgot to unmute the guests, but you knew exactly what needed to happen.
I did. So I apologize on behalf of Jeremy to everyone.
I mean, what more can you expect from a guy wearing a blanket?
Yes. But no, like we've said, you know, when one door closes, another one
Yeah.
will open, and
Yep.
and it'll lead to something even bigger and better.
Yep,
So
it's been a lot of fun. You know, you and I have had the chance to work closely for the last year and a half, and you know, I've gotten to know you really well, and that's been great. Um, you know, there's a lot of there are a lot of no's and sad faces in the chat right now, which is good, right? We
yes.
if everyone in there was indifferent, it would mean that we were ending this too late. Um, but it's time for us to try something else, right? You know, I think it's fair to say that while we enjoy doing this, um, we've taken as far as we can.
Yeah.
You know, when we have our debriefs, when we talk about what to do next time, you know, we've dialed it in pretty well, and you know the technical gear that we've brought in and the setup. If any of you who don't remember the early episodes, go back to those early
Man.
episodes, compare them. They were disaster.
They were. And as we were reflecting back on a year ago today, I remember back to that first episode. We said it was going to be an hour-long show, and you said, send me some topics, send me some things to talk about. And I think the first email I sent you had like 3 things, one of which you knew nothing about. And I was like, oh, this is going to be a little bit harder than I anticipated.
Yeah, and one of the things that you and I have talked about, and I'll share this with the audience. One of the things that I find interesting is if you look at what we're able to produce, and you know, by we, I'm you know, obviously the lion's share is on you. If we add up all the time that goes into one of these, it's a decent chunk of time, but it is not even remotely close to the amount of time that might go into a, let's call it like a full-on evening show, you know, like a primetime late night sort of show, which is kind of what this is modeled after. And the standard that we've brought it to with, you know, geographic constraints, you are 3 time zones away. You are 3,000 miles away from me right now. We've
Yeah.
got that. We've got a budget of $0. And we've managed to put together a show that is fun to do, and it's fun for people watching. And we're being boycotted, and there are now angry faces in the chat. And you know what? I'm glad, in a sense, that that you guys feel this way. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean anything. It just means that
Right.
it's time. It's time for
Yeah.
us to try some other things, you know?
Is and I see it a little bit having listened to a lot of your podcast episodes. I've listened to you grow as an interviewer. I started at episode 1 and listened continuously up through over 400, and I changed jobs in there, and so I haven't been able to keep up as much as I'd like. But just to listen to you grow as an interviewer, I see this a little bit like that, where it's not bad. Sometimes in order to grow, you have to let go of certain things.
Absolutely.
And we as martial arts, we all know that. And so it is a bummer,
Yeah.
but it will allow you and I and the show and whistlekick and everything else to be able to grow in ways that it may not have
Yeah.
if we had continued.
And let's be honest. So the people in the chat right now who are upset, I have talked to almost all of you in one way or another in the last 48 hours. I'm pretty sure everybody watching right now is engaged with whistlekick in other ways. So it doesn't mean that the company is going away.
Right.
What we might do, you know, we may come up with something, you know, in a few months, something that's more freeform. You know, we might have a whistlekick hangout.
Mm.
You know, there are so many ways that we can re-examine this that aren't this structure, because the structure is, anytime you have a structure, it's limiting, right? And I think it's important for us to find a new structure that allows us both to grow. We've both learned a ton from this. And yeah, it's easy. Andrew says, I feel like jumping on the Zoom call and telling them they can't. Oh, and here's Andrew saying full-blown trivia show. Well, it's funny that you say that, Andrew, because Gabe, you and I talked about that. That there are other options. You know, we know that as an organization, we cannot put together multiple evening shows. Like if we had, we could have content like every evening, and you guys aren't all going to show up. It's going to be too much, right? It's the same reason that at one point we explored, should we have a third episode per week of martial arts radio? And the response was actually no. This is the right, we want 2 episodes. That's the right amount. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And one thing I will miss greatly about this show is the chance, he said, just to hang out with people in the chat.
Yeah.
This has been a great place, a great opportunity for people to get together and to just to be together as martial artists.
I think that's the most important part. I think that's the part that we need to, not need to, but I think it's the part that will organically find a way to continue.
Yeah.
So those of you that are watching live, those of you who are watching or listening later, please don't be sad. I mean, actually, you know what? I take that back. You're welcome to be sad. I hope you are a little sad. It means that you care. It means that you enjoy the show. But I hope that you recognize that it doesn't mean that something is ending. It means that there's opportunity for something else. You compare it to your training. You know, if you want to get better at anything, you have to stop doing things the way that you were doing them. And that can be scary and sad and frustrating and all kinds of emotions, but yeah. It's all right. There's so many things on the horizon right now. There's so many things going on that you guys don't even know about. And no, that none of them have to do with me wearing a blanket.
So speaking of wearing things, you're not the only one wearing a whistlekick.
Hey, look at that! It's a whistlekick gi.
Yes. all those black gis that you put up, we
Yeah.
bought them as
Yeah.
soon as put them up. We wear black as our style, and these are great gis. These are awesome.
Yeah, we
So
did pretty well on the black ones. Like we gotta do a new batch.
yeah,
But the minimums on those are a little rough. Still got the other uniforms, the other new uniforms in the other room that I still have to deal with. So,
cool.
should we kick you back over and go on to our last segment and then end this shindig? Or is there more
Sure.
to say? Actually, there's, we talked about, and I want everybody to know this, that part of the reason we're announcing this now is because it gives us the opportunity next episode to do some different and fun things, kind of in celebration and retrospect, best of, highlights, whatever you want to call it. So I'm looking forward to the things that we come up with for that, so we can go out on the highest of possible notes.
Yeah. So you can. We're live, so I can't really hide what I want to communicate with you here. But I can go back to the other side and we can finish off with something else.
Yeah.
Or you can.
Yeah, I don't
do
want
it
to
here,
end on
but-
this.
Okay, you'll have to give me a minute to scroll through because the stuff that I'm going to use I skipped. So
Okay,
I'll
I
give you
will.
a second.
I'll blabber.
Sounds good. I'll see you on
I'll
the other
blabber.
side.
All right. All right. So yeah, don't be too sad. I'm not going to have an excuse for being late to work on the first Tuesday every month now. That's funny. You can just, I don't know, watch reruns. Here's another book. I've got a pile. I've got a pile of books. Guy who writes books has a pile of books. So this is my interview with Grandmaster Jun Rhee, and ended up in conversation via email with someone who started training with Jun Rhee. He told me some great stories. This gentleman is older, and first met Bruce Lee in like '63 or something. Bought a book from him that I think it was like one of those like tiny self-published sort of things, and he really liked Jun Rhee and thanked me for the interview, and so I'm gonna autograph that one and send it to him. We've got a bunch of those things up, just trying to flesh out the books. Books. Let's do some books. Gabe's got a couple more topics from Facebook, or let's do those. Let's save pet peeves monologue for next time. That'll be fun. What's the most random martial arts compliment I've ever received? Ooh. So there are a number of weird things that have happened because of the show, because of martial arts radio, but that's not. I don't consider that so much martial arts as professional. Um, Most random martial arts compliment I've ever received. I've had a couple people who are not martial artists say that they are not surprised that I am a martial artist. Something about the way I carry myself. So I'd say that. Jenny says books, books, books. Jenny's in charge of books. Andrew answers the same question. I was in a tournament once competing in black belt forms. I did a very traditional sai kata. All the other competitors, much younger, did extreme martial arts style bo or kama. After the event was over, the head judge came up and told me privately that I was the only competitor there that knew how to use my weapon. Wow, it's quite the compliment. Gabe, at a tournament once, I was a green belt and took second in weapons bow to a girl who was a brown belt. I had an old man, not a judge, but longtime black belt, come up to me afterwards and tell me I didn't win because I wasn't a cute girl, but that I was welcome to accompany him to any cowboy bar as long as I brought my stick. That is a wonderful and random compliment. Matt has two, both at tournaments. My brother and I went to an open tournament without our instructor and wore unmarked uniforms. After competing in forms, some guy we had never met came over, shook my hand, and asked if I was Marvel's boy, my instructor. He knew my instructor by my performance. In my eyes, it was a compliment. I completely agree. That is an amazing compliment. I have been told that I do forms I've been told in the past that I have done forms similar to my first instructor, one of my first instructors, which, if you ever saw her do forms, is an amazing compliment. One time after competing as a red belt, a senior master told me I was the future of martial arts. About a year later, he was the master of my black belt test. We've been friends since. That's a great compliment. I like it. If you could choose any two if you could choose any two characters from any movie, show, video game, etc., to face off in a fight, who would you choose? Oh, oh, that's so hard. All right, let's say Chuck Norris in Walker Texas Ranger versus Daredevil. Matt says Wesley Snipes from Blade versus Michael Jai White from Blood and Bone. Winter Soldier versus Killmonger. Punisher from the Netflix series versus John Wick versus Brian Mills from Taken. Jason says Wile E. Coyote and Harry Crumb. Ooh, getting creative with that. What movie title best describes your training? Um, Let's see what other people said. Andrew says after class it would be Die Hard. Jared says A Beautiful Mind. There's always search for reality, and half the time I'm having conversations in my head. Jenny says Braveheart. Gabe says Gladiator. Sometimes I'm on top of my game, sometimes I'm in the dumps, and sometimes I train like my family has just been killed. I'm trying to come up with a comedic response, but it's not. I'm not coming up with anything that's funny. I'm fading. So I think we're going to end it. I think it's a good place. I want to thank everybody for watching, for listening. Stacy says Mulan and okay, I'm not quite getting that, and I'm chalking it up to me being tired. So, if you didn't get enough of me being tired here at the end, you can join me for First Cup tomorrow at 6:30 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time on YouTube. But anyway, thank you, everybody. This has been fun. Gabe and I have had a number of conversations about the end of this show, and I'm excited for what's coming next. There are some great things coming for both of us, personally and professionally. And sometimes change happens. Well, all the time change happens. Change continually happens, whatever, however you want to call it. So, thank you. Stay tuned. Make sure you are following the event for the final episode and you're paying attention to all the communications because there will be some great stuff, and I would love your help and involvement in celebrating what we've done over the last 17, soon to be 18 episodes. So thanks, everybody. Thank you, Gabe. Thank you, those of you in the chat. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Peace.